Saturday at Coliseo, Monday in Puebla, Shingo Takagi, Hiromu Takahashi, some of the other guys, Francisco Akira, TJP, who else is there? So they're all going to be for a couple more days even after that. I guess I'll just do the Friday show at Arena Mexico is ridiculously loaded. So it was supposed to be a trios championship main event, which it will not be because of the injury to Commander. So it's going to be Mystico and Mascara Dorada in the main event against Hologram and Bandito, which should be an absolutely outstanding match. Ricochet against Volador Jr., Ultimo Guerrero against Yota Tsuji, Shingo Takagi, Hiromu Takahashi, and Titan against TJP, Francisco Akira, and Templario. Even though LIJ does not exist anymore, they do exist in Mexico because TJP, Francisco Akira, Templario, they're actually United Empire. Shingo and Hiromu and Titan are being billed as LIJ, even though United Empire does still exist and they are members. And it's Defunto, Magnus, Rujito, and Zondokan Jr. against Leo Rush, Action Andretti, Rocky Romero, and Robbie X. Should be pretty good. Neon against Kevin Knight, which should be pretty interesting. Mercedes Moné against Catalina for the CMLL women's title, which Mercedes Moné won tonight. Red Velvet against Kira, and Thunder Rosa against Yorochita. I have no idea how they're going to do 9 matches in a 2.5-hour show, which probably means they're going to have to be really cut down. So the matches will not have, the one good thing about Arena Mexico, it's a 2.5-hour show and it's usually 5 matches. And so the matches have they go perfect. Most of the time they go perfect length. They peak perfectly. They usually, sometimes rare that they go long. So 9 matches is when they do shows with 9 matches, they're cut short and they're actually sometimes disappointing shows, but we'll see. I mean, this one's a very, very loaded lineup. The last Friday show was that main event. It was the Sky Team, so Mystico, Neon, Mascara Dorada, and Atlantis Jr. teaming with the Sky Team against Euphoria, Ultimo Guerrero, Gran Guerrero, and Averno. Man, that match was like almost perfect. It was super, super hot crowd, huge crowd, very, very different. That's the one thing is last night's crowd and tonight's crowd were very different crowds from the crowds that you get on Friday night. I know, tonight's crowd was a fantastic crowd, but it was, it was a lot more Americanized in the sense of, they don't chant like the chants that they do on Fridays. They, was it, this is wrestling, Ocho, whatever. They were chanting that the last 2 nights. They never chant that on Fridays. That's the Americanized stuff. Different reactions. The booing of Atlantis. I mean, Atlantis himself, unless he's against Blue Panther.
Not just Atlantis Jr., Atlantis.
Yeah, Atlantis got booed. Yeah, because of his association with Atlantis Jr., I guess. I don't know. Atlantis Jr., but like Friday at Arena Mexico, Atlantis Jr. was cheered like crazy. There have been nights he gets booed, and there are essentially what you have is the crowds. So there used to be a deal. It was when it was the Arena Mexico years ago, where you would have your normal weekly crowds of in those days 5,000-6,000. Obviously it's a lot more popular now, and those were your normal crowds. And then when you had a big show like Anniversary or whatever it was, and you got the crowd up to 9, 10, 11,000, those extra fans, those, you would think that those are the more casual fans, but they're actually the more hardcore fans. And so those fans would come in and they would boo the Technicos all the time. And those were the type of fans that would, in fact, boo Atlantis Jr. because they felt that he didn't earn his spot because he's the son of Atlantis and he was handed everything. And so you did have that crowd. You had that crowd last night. You had that crowd tonight. You didn't have that crowd on Friday, even though Friday was a big, big crowd. But the big crowds now are not that, those hardcores that come a few times a year. Tuesday and Wednesday were, fans of, I guess you would call them fans of American wrestling that went to Arena Mexico. And the kind of the hardcore fans, and they know everything. Look at the way they reacted to, Ospreay, Moxley, Ricochet, all of the stars of AEW, the Young Bucks. I mean, it's like they are not your Friday fans, not as big. Certainly MJF. I mean, my God, but it's just a different audience. I'm not saying one audience is better than the other. It's just like these are the people these last two nights that maybe come for a couple of shows a year, and when the big guest stars from outside the promotion come in, and then they often boo the people from the promotion and cheer some of them as well. I mean, it was very, very interesting. The Tuesday, I didn't see the whole Tuesday show, but I saw the last several matches, and Neon and Hologram had a singles match, and it's the first part of the match was kind of rocky, and I was kind of like, nah. Sometimes you bring in, non-arena, non-CMLL guys to CMLL, and Hologram is, even though he's a luchador, it's a different style of a lucha, and sometimes they don't click. And plus, Neon does incredible things, but in many ways, and what I've seen on people from the internet and things like that, he's very overrated. I mean, he does great things. I love watching. Neon does incredible things, but in many ways, and what I've seen on people from the internet and things like that, he's very overrated. I mean, he does great things. I love watching him, but, unless he's in there with the people he's comfortable with, there's often problems. Now, they got it together, and the second half of this match was fantastic. I mean, it was as good as the matches tonight. And then Atlantis Jr. and Josh Alexander, they just cheered Josh Alexander like crazy, booed Atlantis Jr. And Josh Alexander thought, like, well, I'm just going to go total Rudo and turn the crowd, and everything he did didn't work. And they just continued to boo Atlantis Jr. And what was it? Atlantis Jr. won. Josh Alexander had the ankle lock on. Atlantis Jr. won with from that position with a bridging cradle. Hologram beat Neon with the what's called portal bomb. The portal bomb, which actually looked fantastic. The airplane spinning, the power bomb. But those guys in the second half of that match, so many great moves. So many great moves. I mean, Neon did the he did the double. So this is another thing where you could see it was a different crowd. Neon did the running down the ramp, double springboard, moonsault to the floor on Hologram, and he does that every Friday night, and it gets a pop. It gets a pop. Especially because they do the spot at the right time in every match, right as they're really building up the momentum for the finish. And the guys start doing their dives, and he'll do that big dive. And it always gets over. In this match, the reaction of the people, they went absolutely nuts, like I've never seen since the first time he did it. And it really hit me. It's like, man, these people don't go on Fridays, and they've never seen this move. And they're just like, wow, they're like the first time we're seeing this for the first time, because that's how they reacted. They like blew the place, they were on their feet going like, this is just insane. So the next one was Averno, Euphoria, Ultimo Guerrero, Gran Guerrero against Rocky Romero, Takeshita, Kyle Fletcher, and Hechicero, which was a excellent match. Great crowd reactions for Ultimo Guerrero. The Ultimo Guerrero team were the Technicos, or they were the baby face. They were not the Technicos, but the Callis family worked as total Rudos, but really great match. A lot of dives at the end, and was it I think it was Takeshita with a falcon arrow off the middle rope on I think for the pin on I'm not sure which one. I think it was on it was Fletcher and Hechicero, but I'm not. Yeah, they did falcon arrow off the middle rope for the pin, and then main event was Bandito and Moscow Dorada for the ROH title, and it was just awesome. I mean, legit, maybe the best match of the year in Mexico, legit match of the year contender. They clicked. Bandito did some really cool power spots. Not like, press slam or things like that, the normal power spots. They were spots like where he would hold the guy up like here and just like keep him there. You know what I mean? Like just with his, you know what I mean? Like just real unique power spots. And all the big flying moves and crowd going nuts. I mean, that was the best match so far of this tour. I mean, by far. That match was just incredible. So that was that for Tuesday.
All right, we'll get an AEW here in a moment. First off, any ratings notes?
Yeah, let me get the rating stuff. So I'll just go backwards. Tuesday NXT was 660,000 viewers and 0.16. Very different from the last couple of weeks where they had the very old audience. They did not have the old audience at all. I mean, not at all, but way down as far as over 50. And I'm guessing it's probably news because Fox News was way up. You also had the hockey game, the Stanley Cup Finals. That probably hurt a little bit as well. So, but I mean, they were up from 0.15 to 0.16 in 18 to 49. They were up even more in 18 to 34. So overall, I mean, it would be considered up against real strong competition, but when you look at the viewers, it was significantly down, and that's likely because of Fox News did big numbers with over 50, and the hockey game's going to draw from all people really, and a lot of it was very similar to the Dynamite show that went against the NBA playoff game last Wednesday, where it's the second person in the home that usually watch together that didn't watch. So it would be like, that's probably, especially since it's probably, like whatever it is, like people who watch together, someone was probably watching the news or the hockey game or something else on TV, whatever it was. But that was like really where you could see the difference. Raw was, we don't have Raw from this past Monday, obviously. It's from a week before. Actually, I need to check. It was real interesting because it was not listed. The Monday show was not listed in the top 10 in the U.S., but that has to be a mistake, for on Tuesdays when the ratings came out on Tuesday. So this is the week we'll go, which is the Jey Uso Gunther match, which they were up a lot, probably about 8%. So it would be about 1,083,000. So over 100,000 up from what they had been doing for the last month. I mean, the two key things were stronger show. You got that world title match, world title drew. You had a lot of, you had John Cena, you had a lot of stuff like that. And also, I mean, the key thing was no sports. I mean, it's like, as far as, I mean, there's always sports. There's like probably college baseball World Series was on, but I mean, when I'm talking about that, I mean, no, the softball playoffs that were in NCAA were doing big numbers. Obviously the Stanley Cup's doing big numbers, and then the NBA finals, they didn't go against any of them. And really the low numbers that Raw had been doing, were almost every week against the NBA playoffs. So just like we figured, once those, traditionally, I mean, it's going to be less because we're not talking, we're talking worldwide numbers now, not just U.S. numbers. So these things hurt. They hurt to a degree. Like if it would hurt 10%, maybe it only hurts 5% because it's the American audience. And, some of the other countries, there's some crossover, with these big sporting events. but in a lot of, it's not going to be like it would be when it's only the United States number. But Raw traditionally, the NBA playoffs are the second lowest time of the year until NFL season. So and Raw numbers usually go up now until August. They usually are up. So we'll see if that happens here. Netflix is a different animal, but it's really not been successful on Netflix compared to what I think everyone expected. But I don't think that it will be going down until football season. And then football season, we'll probably set record lows unless they get super hot in some way. And then SmackDown was where's that right here? Do I have that? Hold on. SmackDown is 1,401,000 viewers, 0.38. They did go against the NBA playoffs, so that pretty much explains it. They had John Cena all over that show. They had Punk. They had Cody Rhodes wrestling. All things that would have normally, you would think, led to strong numbers for the show, and probably helped the show a lot because they had done a lot. They had done several lower numbers against much less viewed NBA playoff games than this one. So it was higher. The 0.38 is higher, but they were going against a game. That game was about 9.5 million viewers, I believe, and 2.66 in 18-34. So that's about the top competition that SmackDown's going to get until we start getting big college football games on Friday nights during college football season. So that's basically the gist of all the ratings.
All right, a couple of quick UFC notes. The Jones-Aspinall fight.
Yeah, Dana White did a thing today with he did an interview, and basically he was asked about the fight, and he said, if we don't figure it out in the next couple of weeks,